All right, I think it's time to light a fire in my outdoor wood boiler. The temperatures outside are getting pretty cold and I want to get this thing going. So I have to go over a few things. I got to check out the stove and the overall system to make sure it's still ready to burn. Also in this video, I'm going to try to hook up another pump and run another insulated line underground to the inside of my barn and hook up some kind of forced air heat exchanger so this stove can heat the barn as well as my house. Right now I just have one pump hooked up to a line underground running to my house. That's a big advantage of outdoor wood boilers that I haven't really used yet. Most outdoor boilers are designed to run multiple buildings. So the one I have, I can hook up 2 more pumps so I can heat 3 separate buildings if I wanted to off of this one boiler unit. So the first thing I have to do is re-level the whole frame of this thing. When I installed it last year, I made a roughly compacted stone base for it because this isn't its permanent location. Eventually, I want to make some kind of lean-to structure or barn addition on the back side of my barn, and I'll pour a pad and do it properly, but this is just temporary to get me by for maybe a few years. So I already did this once in the middle of the summer. I saw it settling pretty bad. So I picked it up and I put a board just on the front half here because it seemed like it was just settling down like that. And I'm pretty sure that water tank on the top, most of the water's right over this front half. So most of that weight was sinking down in my mediocre pad. So the 110 power running to this is not on yet. So I'm gonna switch this on and it's gonna open the damper to the door and it's gonna turn this pump on and start circulating the water. So the damper door opened and this pump's running. So the water temperature right now is 50 degrees Fahrenheit, and the damper door will stay open, giving the fire air until, I think I have this set at 175 or 180, something like that. So it's set at 175 degrees Fahrenheit. So once the water temperature hits 175, the damper on this door is activated by a solenoid. That's going to close, smothering the fire, letting that smolder until the water temperature drops below 165. Then that'll open back up again, giving the fire more air and raising the water temperature. I probably should have checked this first. It's all right. I saw Dig Drive DIY do this in a video. I thought that was pretty cool to document when you got to start it every year. We will see if I have enough wood this year. I'm guesstimating everything stacked under here is maybe like 5 or 6 cords of wood, plus maybe almost a cord in that wagon. Last year I didn't have quite as much stacked up in there. It wasn't stacked as tight, and I burned through all of that. And then I was kind of scrounging for stuff at the end of the season. So we'll see what happens this year. It is still not quite up to temperature yet. I started it probably an hour and a half ago. But let's go see what's happening inside the house. So I'm in the middle of putting an addition on my house. I'm still working on the metal roofing right now. So as of right now, I'm just going to be heating this old part of the house, depending on if the weather cooperates and if I can get some windows and doors within the next month or so. I might try heating the addition with that boiler, but as of right now, it's just going to be heating that old house. So this is the addition part that is unheated, still open. Obviously no windows and doors yet. And then this is my temporary wall blocking off the old house to the new house. I had a similar setup last year. So the hot water from that boiler is running underground in insulated pipe coming through the basement wall, and it's hooked to this heat exchanger. It's basically like a radiator with a fan hooked to it. So you have an inlet and an outlet, and then this fan is hooked to a thermostat upstairs, so when the house thermostat calls for heat, this fan turns on and blows that hot air in this basement. And then I have some old duct vents. That fan's kind of helping the heat go up in the house. This is just a temporary setup. This was like this all last year, and it worked very well. Eventually, I have PEX tubing running throughout this whole concrete floor, and that hot water will circulate through a system of pumps, and I haven't figured all that out yet, but it's going to circulate through the concrete floor, radiating up and heating the house. So it's still not up to temperature yet, but I just turned it on. But that water will get to like 170, 180, and it spreads the heat around nice. So that is my Hillbilly homemade insulated boiler line. Like I had mentioned, the location of this boiler is temporary. I'm gonna be moving it at some point, so these lines underground are temporary. I'm gonna have to dig them up when I relocate the boiler. So I didn't wanna spend the money on the really good insulated underground line, which is like $15 a foot. So I had some leftover corrugated drain pipe. I put my PEX tubes in there. I put that foam pipe insulation around it, and then I just spray foamed as much as I could inside that perforated pipe. I think it'll be fine, especially for this short 15-foot run to the barn. I do have the really good insulated stuff right now running to the house because that's a little more permanent than this, and it looks like that. It's like a solid foam core filled corrugated pipe, and it's a really good R-value efficient underground pipe. So I have a bunch of softwood pieces that I've been burning in this first row. It's this stuff here. It's either like a poplar or a cottonwood, and it's noticeably worse than like anything else I've burned. Even pine, I feel like I get more heat out of pine. But it's like a really soft wood, and I split it maybe 3 or 4 months ago, so it's still kind of wet. And I can really tell that it burns up a lot quicker, and I just don't get the heat out of it. So I've been trying to mix in some harder woods with that soft stuff. I think these 3 pieces in the middle are maple, just to get a better, longer, more consistent burn out of it. You can really tell the difference in the species of wood that you're burning on how much heat you get out of it and how long it lasts. And there's some charts online. I'll try to find one on all the different species of wood and how much BTUs each species has. So I have a second pump here, and this is a second outlet that the pump hooks to, which I need to tie these lines into. This is a check valve. So it only lets the water go in, shouldn't let any water flow back out. I should be done in here, other than I have to get a short wire and a plug for this other pump. So I'm using PEX A with these expansion fittings instead of, I think, the more common crimp fittings. So the only reason I really like the PEX A expansion better is because of the flow. So these are both 1-inch PEX fittings. This is the crimp, and then this is the expansion. And then that's a 1-inch PEX line. So the crimp fits on the inside diameter of the PEX, and then there's a ring that you crimp around this to seal it. And then this is the expansion, which is why you need that fancy tool to expand the PEX, and then it shrinks back over this. But you get, I think the number is 20%. I think you get 20% more flow because you don't have to shrink it down for it to fit inside the PEX. You have to expand it and then fit it over. So you get a lot more flow, and I think that's really helpful in this scenario with an outdoor wood boiler, because you get a lot more circulation with your hot water going from the heat exchanger back through the boiler. In that loop, you get a lot more flow, and I think that helps spread the heat better. So I did fill this boiler up with distilled water last year, but I got this stuff. I think it's still supposed to help with corrosion. So this is the heat exchanger that I bought. It is 20 inches wide, 16 inches tall, and I think it's like 14 inches deep. So it already has the aluminum copper coil in there, and then it has a fan mounted in the back. There's some numbers there, but I think this is supposed to be good for like 100,000 BTUs with a water temperature of 180 degrees. And I think the fan CFM is like 1400 or 1600 CFM. I just need to solder on these copper to PEX adapter fittings.
Not really screaming, just loud enough.
Not loud enough.
Just checking. It might be.
You know what you're doing?
Yeah, that's it. Cool. Oh, you never soldered before?
I've never soldered before.
Big welder. Never soldered. Definitely, too much, but you know, more is better. You get comments about the OSHA violations.
Okay. No, usually they're fucked. I think I'm gonna hang it back like that too. Oh wow. I gotta get more headroom. I don't like it.
You're just gonna heat this spot on the floor.
Fuck. This is a lot.
Right at 12.
What do we got? But why would you have power? Is this neutral?
A little flat.
Or is power yellow? Black. Yeah, they got black to yellow. Okay.
Hold on, open those valves before you plug that in.
It's cavitating.
I think it's flowing. So I let that pump run for about a day, and the water temperature at this heat exchanger just wasn't getting hot enough. This heat exchanger was only getting about 100 degrees when it should be about 160 to 170 degrees. I originally thought it might be an air bubble problem, like there was an airlock in the system somewhere, so I added a valve with a little bleeder, and that did get a bunch of air out, but that still didn't fix the problem. So I think the problem was actually with my pump. I had originally had this same pump right here for the barn. This is circulating the hot water for the house. And I had that same identical pump I used for this, but I don't think this pump had enough head pressure to pump that water down underground, up like 10 or 12 feet through that heat exchanger, and then back down into the boiler. This one I had laying around, it was an older used pump, and it says it's 1/8 horsepower, and I think these smaller ones are like 1/25. So I just needed a bigger pump to circulate that water. I'm sure there's like some formulas or calculations on what size pump and the flow rate and the horsepower and all that for, you know, the size of your loop and the diameter of your pipe. I don't really know any of that. I just kind of trial and error. It seems like this pump's circulating just fine though. So I have the fan on the back of this heat exchanger hooked up to this thermostat, and it's actually a really nice thermostat for what it is. I think it was only like $40. So there's 110 power coming in here, and then the plug for the fan is coming in there. And then this is a little thermometer temperature sensor. So you can set your turn on temperature and your turn off temperature. And so when it gets to 50 degrees, the fan will kick on, circulating that hot water or that heat from the hot water. And then at 55 degrees, the fan turns off. So I've had this hooked up for a few weeks now, and it is really nice having my barn set to a constant heated temperature. It's actually pretty fancy if you ask me. But with that being said, I am noticeably burning more wood in the boiler. I'm probably putting like 5 or 6 more pieces of wood in the boiler every 12 hours than I normally would before I hooked up the heat in the barn. This is about a 1,300 square foot barn with 10-foot ceilings, and I have maybe like an R20 of blown in insulation in the ceiling, and then the walls have an 1.5 inch thick foam board in the walls. I think that's like an R7 or 7.5. So it's not like extremely well insulated. It is just a pole barn construction. I mean, I tried to seal it up the best I can, but like the man door's got major air leaks, the garage door kind of air leaks, and then obviously the big one here is the doggy door. I should probably try to seal that up better, but it's not an airtight barn. There's a lot of air leaks. The insulation's not perfect, but it holds the heat pretty well for what it is. So I'm definitely burning more wood in the boiler, running this second heat exchanger. I could turn my temperature down. It's pretty comfortable at 55 degrees in here for me. I like that. I could turn it down, save probably a little more wood, but I'm gonna run it like it is for now and see if it's worth burning the extra wood. So I will still light a fire in this wood stove if I know I'm gonna be in here a little while, or like on the weekends, I'll get a fire going in that just to kind of supplement the heat from that heat exchanger and the outdoor wood boiler. That might sound kind of funny. You could say that the wood I'm burning in here, I could just burn in that boiler, and it's probably pretty comparable to the amount I'm gonna use, but I like the heat off of a freestanding wood stove better. For those of you that have one, you'll know what I'm talking about, but it's just a better heat radiating off of that rather than like hot air blowing around. So I'll still light a fire in that. But it is really nice having the shop at a constant 55 degrees. And I could turn that up if I wanted to also, but like I said, I kind of like running the wood stove when I can too. But it doesn't seem to struggle keeping up with that temperature either. With the temperatures outside right now, it's December 10th. It's like 20 degrees Fahrenheit during the day, and it gets down into the low teens at night. But with those temperatures, that fan kicks on for like 5 or 10 minutes, maybe every hour. So I don't think that's too bad. I'm definitely burning the wood in the boiler. So maybe ask me at the end of the season if it's worth that extra wood.